Apparently we had a bit of a deal that happened recently. Funny how this deal happened right after the new year when the Republicans can say, hey, you know what? We didn't vote for tax increases. The tax cuts had already expired. We voted to actually reduce taxes, which is actually totally true. I'll get back to that in a second. But before the markets opened on Wednesday morning, you wouldn't want to upset the markets. Now, a lot of the newspapers and outlets are actually getting this completely wrong. Let me give you two examples. Politico says, quote, a president fresh off a strong re-election victory tested and ultimately broke the Republican Party's fidelity to its tax cuts only governing philosophy. Well, he broke them. He broke them. Here's the only problem. He got, on the issue of tax cuts, which is what Politico is talking about, no concessions from the Republicans. You might be saying, wait a minute, I just watched TV all day. You're talking about, oh, you're broken and concession. No. The tax cuts had already expired. So what they voted on was a new round of tax cuts. In fact, that round of tax cuts that applied to 99% of the people in the country, thereby basically saying that we are continuing to push tax cuts for 99% of the country, thanks to not a Republican president, Democratic President Barack Obama agreeing with the Republicans, hey, yeah, you know what? We should actually do gigantic tax cuts again. Now, New York Times also gets it wrong. They say, Mr. Obama succeeded in forcing Senate Republicans to raise the top income tax rate to 39.6%. from 35% despite their adamant opposition, although he agreed to apply that to household income above $450,000 instead of $250,000. He also won an increase in taxes on wealthy estates to 40% from 35%, though it was not as high as liberals wanted. Now, that's just not true. He didn't get those concessions. So, for example, the estate tax did not go from 35 to 40%. Hey, look at that, Obama raised the estate tax. No. As soon as the Bush tax cuts expired, which they did on January 1st, the estate tax went to 55%. What Obama did was he cut the estate tax from 55% down to 40%. So what did he do? He extended the great majority of the Bush tax cuts. And now on incomes above $250,000, he also got no concessions. Those tax cuts had already expired, as I've explained over and over again, right? And that's why everybody says, oh, you know, this is the most common excuse for Obama. But, Cenk, what could he do? He had no choice. You're only 100% wrong about that. He could have done nothing. For an incredibly rare moment, the laws were set to a progressive advantage. The tax cuts had expired. If you did nothing, all you would have to do the next day is introduce a bill saying, hey, I'd like to give the middle class a tax cut. Now, go ahead, Republicans. You're going to vote against that? People like Tom Cole, Republican of Oklahoma, said there's no way in the world we could vote against that. That is the easiest layup in American political history. The Republicans weren't going to block a middle-class tax cut. And the tax cuts, for the 8th time now, had already expired. What Obama did was he gave another tax cut now to people not just under $250,000 as he had promised, but up to $450,000. What's interesting is that I remember a president telling me $250,000 is the number. I mean, JR, did he repeat that over and over? Now, I asked JR because he's our producer who put this clip together. That shows President Obama, and you can judge on your own if he thought that $250,000 was the number.
I called on Congress to immediately stop the January 1st tax hike from hitting any American on the first $250,000 of their income.
And that's why I'm calling on Congress to extend the tax cuts for the 98% of Americans who make less than $250,000.
And I can make a firm pledge. Under my plan, no family making less than $250,000 a year will see any form of tax increase.
When it comes to the top 2%, what I'm not going to do is to extend further a tax cut for folks who don't need it.
But the other 2% of Americans will have to pay a little more on taxes on anything they make over $250,000.
I'm not going to ask students and seniors and middle-class families to pay down the entire deficit while people like me making over $250,000 aren't asked to pay a dime more in taxes.
We all agree that no American should pay more taxes on the first $250,000 of their income.
In other words, 97% of small businesses fall under the $250,000 threshold. And I just want to point out, this was a central question during the election. It was debated over and over again.
The central point in the election, debated over and over again. Something that President Obama said that he would not concede on. That was his line. You just heard him say 250,000 how many times? 1, 2 million times? And what did he do? Of course, he's President Obama. He conceded, and for no reason. So let me give you the details of the plan. So 99% of you get a permanent cut. By the way, the Bush tax cuts were better than this because they were set to expire. That's why we had what we had today, and that's why we had the same kind of fight in 2010, because they were set to expire. These are not set to expire. For the rest of the time, people making under $450,000 are going to have the Bush tax cuts, which now should be called the Obama tax cuts. And they brag about that as if like, oh, we got you tax cuts. No, you knuckleheads. Tax cuts are a Republican idea, and we had them under Bush, and they didn't work. The tax cuts do not bring you a better economy. That is not how it works. We had the Clinton-era rates during Clinton. We had 23 million jobs created. We did tax cuts under Bush. We lost jobs. So it doesn't work. Stop bragging about it. It's not a progressive idea. Now it gets worse. Capital gains and dividends permanently set at 20% for income above $450,000 to $400,000. Let's explain that real quick. Now, capital gains went up from 15 to 20. Okay. Now, capital gains have been historically low. It was never justified. It's totally unfair, but it is what it is. Okay. I would have brought them to 39.6. We're nowhere near that. But dividends were at 39.6. The tax cuts expired. They were at 39.6. Obama brought down to 20%. Now, dividends, that's like if you have a stock and they pay you a dividend, right? Now, if you work really hard, you're digging ditches, you're a dentist, or whatever you happen to be, you're going to pay 39.6 if you're lucky enough to get to the top 1% or the top bracket, okay? Now, on the other hand, if you're getting dividend off of income that you've already made, no, you don't have to pay 39.6. You just sit at home, press a couple of buttons, and pay 20%. Now, why is that fair? That's totally unfair. But thanks to President Obama and his brilliant negotiations, that's what we have today. But it gets worse. Carried interest is simply the income that private equity and hedge fund managers make. Those are the Wall Street guys. Not all of them, but some of the Wall Street guys. It is not investment income. It is normal income. It's like a dentist does the drilling, he gets paid for it. They do the investment of other people's money, they get paid for it. It's income. But they have a loophole that allows them to pay 20% thanks to President Obama. That should have been 39.6, but it's not. It's now 20% permanently. Yes, somebody could fix the laws at another time. Oh, good luck trying to get these Republicans, now that the laws are set to their advantage, to do another tax increase when? When? To go after those hedge fund and private equity guys to pay their fair share. That's all we're asking for. Is that going to happen? It's not going to happen because these are the new permanent Obama tax cuts. And we're not done yet. Then we get the estate tax. The estate tax will be set at 40% with a $5 million exemption. Now, what was it? Well, under the Bush plan, it was 35%. As soon as it expired on January 1st, it was 55%. What did Obama do in his great deal where he got the Republicans to concede on taxes, where he broke them? He lowered it down to 40%. When the top estates in the country, which does not apply to you unless you are mega wealthy, the exemption is $5 million for a couple, it's $10 million. You can give away $10 million and the estate tax does not apply. It's for every dollar above $10 million for the couple. The mega wealthy. He gave away 15%. You see, but when you do that, then we can't clothe the poor, we can't feed the hungry, we can't educate the next generation, because that's part of what fuels it. We need money. And it's okay to say, hey, you've done great in this country because of the opportunity that you have received. Can you pay back a little bit? Now they pay back less and less and less because the greedy keep on winning, and they have won again. And the guy who agrees with that is the leader of the greedy, Grover Norquist, the leader of Americans for Tax Reform, who went on television and bragged about winning. Look at what he says here. This is actually true. Listen.
So how does the fiscal cliff deal not violate that pledge?
It's technically not a violation of the pledge, but I understand why a lot of Republicans have said, look, even though what's happening is the tax cuts disappear and we're restoring them for most people, so we're not raising taxes, we're actually cutting taxes.
Because you're saying because the Bush tax cuts have expired yesterday?
Yes.
So technically, just because they expired yesterday, so technically these are still tax cuts?
Correct.
But that's absolutely true. So he's like, hey, listen, you schmucks, if you'd done nothing, man, the tax increases would have been huge for the rich. And here's the head of the Americans for Tax Reform, the guy that all these politicians signed the pledge to, saying they'll never raise taxes, saying, I just won, you idiots. You gave me what I wanted. In fact, he gets a little bit more clear about the scope of his victory in the next clip.
Keep in mind how much of a retreat this is for the modern Democratic Party. The Democrats have spent 12 years attacking the 2001-2003 Bush tax cuts. They all voted against it. Obama attacked it regularly. Now they're out there helping to preserve about 84% of those tax cuts and making them permanent.
Oops. The only problem with that is that, unfortunately, he's totally right. It's for 99% of Americans. It preserves 84% of the revenue of those tax cuts, including for the rich. Even if you're a billionaire, you don't have to pay the extra taxes on between 250 and 450. In fact, between 0 and 450. Let alone the money you save on estate tax, carried interest, dividend, capital gains, and the list goes on. Let alone the extra NASCAR break that they got for $70 million and the other goodies thrown in for Goldman Sachs that'll give a new tax advantage for them to build their new place in New York, and the list goes on. And then they say, oh no, Cenk, you don't understand. You have to do a deal, you have to compromise. Look at all the wonderful things we got in return. So what were those? Well, the earned income tax credit, the child tax credit, the American Opportunity Tax Credit, and unemployment benefits continue. Now, most progressives would think that those are good things. First of all, on all those tax credits that actually help middle-class Americans, they are not permanent. They expire in 5 years. The rest are permanent. That one, we're going to set the rules against you, so they're less likely to be continued. And on unemployment benefits, well, they're permanent, right? Extended for 1 year. Tax cuts, permanent. Unemployment, 1 year. Congratulations. What an unbelievable deal for you guys. And by the way, on every single one of those policies that I just listed as a good things that we quote unquote won, we could have won easily. Because when unemployment benefits were cut by the Republicans not long ago in 2010, Senator Bunning did it. Other Republicans turned on him and said, what an extreme radical idea. Senator Cornyn said, he's just one senator. He does not represent the caucus. They voted against Bunning 78-19. Why? Cutting unemployment benefits in the middle of this tough economy is deeply unpopular. If I'm president, I let the tax cuts expire and then I go, oh, you want to fight on unemployment benefits? Have at it, Hoss. I will get those unemployment benefits and I will bleed you for it. It's an easy win. Even the Republicans thought it was an easy win back in 2010. They still think it. They just think, I can't believe how much this guy is giving us. Finally, think about it this way. Remember when all these negotiations began? President Obama said that he wanted $1.6 trillion in extra revenue. Well, the original Boehner offer, when he finally came back with an offer, was, no, I'll give you $800 billion in revenue. What was the final deal? $600 billion in revenue. Lower than Boehner's original offer. Congratulations. Well played. That's the kind of three-dimensional chess I must not be well versed in. Finally, the White House has let the New York Times know that when progressives criticize them, they say, quote, the criticism has irritated the White House. Oh, I'm so sorry to have irritated you with facts.